Hello there, I'm the Biblical Translator, and I tend to just look in the Bible and I come across scriptures that I feel I can relate to, and then I paraphrase them so that it's more relatable in everyday language. Today I was reading about the crucifixion. Well, not the crucifixion, the resurrection. And I had been watching a movie, a Korean movie called Reunited Worlds. And it was about a boy who died, but we didn't know he died in the movie. We saw that lightning struck him, or we saw lightning struck. The next thing we know, the movie goes into this another place where we see the boy and he's woken up 12 years later. As far as we're concerned, we don't know he's woken up. We just know he's appeared 12 years later. And he's looking for his home and he's looking for people who he knew. He's in the same school, but he's wearing a different uniform. And they're asking him, what's he doing with the old uniform? And on top of that, he's still the same age as when they last saw him. Now, what's interesting is that when he appears like me and you. Sometimes when we see ghosts, or how they portray ghosts, it's like they're floating around, they look eerie, they look spooky, you can't touch them, you can't hold them. But the way they had done this film, this was a man who was normal. You could touch him, you could speak to him, you could relate to him. People didn't know he was dead, and we didn't know he was dead until well into the film. And what had happened is he had died. I'm not quite sure how he died now. He died in a car accident, but it was murder. Somebody had murdered him, and he had died in a car accident, and he'd also been accused of murder. So he'd come back and he found out that he'd been accused of murder, and he wanted to set the book straight while he was back. He didn't know he had to go back. The reason why I'm talking about this is that nobody knows what happens after death, do we? And we know how the kings were so paranoid and frightened when they realized that Jesus had come out of the tomb, and they even bribed people to say, oh look, somebody, his disciples came in the night and stole the body, that kind of stuff. They didn't want anyone to believe that he had resurrected from the dead. And it's because they knew that if people knew that he had resurrected from the dead, they would know that they had killed the Son of God, and they couldn't have that on their conscience. So they had to hide it as best as they could. Only those close to him knew that he had really resurrected from the dead, and it was only for a time. And that's why I was talking about Reunited Worlds. It's a Korean movie. Because he was back in this world for a time to resolve what he hadn't sorted out before he died. So it was to clear his name of murder. It was to say goodbye to his loved ones who he never got a chance to see. And the weird thing is that they'd all grown 12 years older, and he was still the same age as when he died. And it was very difficult for them to accept him, but after a while they accepted him like normal, and he cleared his name and stuff like that, and the next thing he evaporated and disappeared. How do we know what happens after death? We have people telling us all kinds of things, don't we? We have people saying your spirit lives on. We have people saying you come back in an insect. You kind of transform into something else. Some people say you keep coming back until you perfect yourself. But nobody knows. Because once you die, your heart stops beating, and whether they cremate you or put you under the earth, nobody comes back to tell you their story. So it's not unfathomable for Jesus to come back to life. It's not out of our realms to believe that he was resurrected after 3 days. It's only that he forecasted it in advance. We do not know what happens after death, so we can't forecast. I can't say to my loved ones, look, don't worry, after I'm buried, I'm going to come back to you in 3 days' time. My mother used to say she would float around and haunt and go and see Buckingham Palace. I don't know if that's what she's doing. But I didn't see her in a haunting way after she died. So I do not know. They reckon, but I know the day my mum died, a cat appeared. They bought a cat next door. Sometimes I think, I wonder if my mum appeared and has come back as a cat. But what do we know about death, apart from that some of us believe it's our final end and some people believe it's the beginning? So even though the people in the Bible did not believe that Jesus was resurrected, but Mary Magdalene and his disciples all saw that he was resurrected. They saw the holes in his nail. They saw the nails in his hand, the holes where the nails had been. So they knew it was him. But we do not know if we resurrect. And if we do resurrect, what is that going to look like? Will it depend on our past behaviour? Will it depend on the life we lived before we died? And what did that life look like? And when we think about that, if just supposing we came back after death and it was based on the life we lived, and the life we lived was bad, would that be our hell everlasting? The fact that you are going to be tormented by what you had done in the past? We don't know. Nobody knows. All we can hope for is that when we die, we have a peaceful death, a painless death, and that we die in peace. Because I'm not quite sure if I came back, whether I'd want to come back in this world, in this type of world. And if I did, would I be able to adjust to this type of world? Would I be the same creature? Would I be the same person? Would I have the same values? Or would I just morph into a new society? So when we read the Bible, all is this to say is when we read the Bible, it mustn't seem as though things are impossible. As though, it's impossible for Christ to have been resurrected. It's impossible that it was Jesus, that Jesus was the Son of God. When you think of us all, we're all children of God. So it's not impossible for Jesus to be the Son of God. And we're all children of this large universe. But we all think we're independent. We all think we have our own way of doing things and we can behave as we like. But we're all accountable. And the only thing that God asks is that we love each other. And how easy is it to love each other? Is that such a hard thing to do? To love each other? It's not hard. Why do people find it so difficult? It seems easier for people to hate, even though it goes against the grain. Have you noticed how uncomfortable you feel when you're angry, when you want to exercise revenge, when you want to hurt someone? Do you realise how uncomfortable that feels? And yet that's what people choose over love, which is so warm and accepting. Anyway, my 10 minutes is up. I am the Biblical Translator. Look for me on YouTube. And thank you very much for listening. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.